Hey, welcome back to another episode of Venture Prince. This is a YouTube series where I am going over some of what I think are my cooler photos I've taken throughout my history of enjoying photography. It started way back in high school when I took a graphic arts class, and luckily, my high school actually had a dark room, and so I had to learn how to develop photos in that way. And I later took that to community college, where I took two different photography classes as well and got even more into learning how to develop interesting photography. So I've always been super about it. And something I think is interesting is when I look back through my photos, I always like to think, when were they taken? Exactly were they taken? What was happening in the background, or any funny stories around that same time, or why was that photo did I think that photo was cool? So that's something I wanted to do and challenge myself to do twice a year this year, putting a show on YouTube out every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. And those YouTube episodes coincide with the same photo on my Instagram, just trying to get the Instagram going, as well as maybe sending people over to a YouTube channel and getting a little more background on the photo that I posted on my Instagram. So let's get, oh, and by the way, I'm wearing my Michigan hockey jersey. It is an old school jersey because there no longer is a C, or they're not in the CCHA. They're in the Big Ten, but I'm wearing it as they are in the Big Ten tournament this week, as well as Michigan basketball will be on Friday. But I am going to the Michigan hockey game, Michigan versus Notre Dame on Wednesday. And obviously, with being the internet, you could be watching this in 2028, and it makes no sense. Or do you care at all about the Michigan hockey team in the Big Ten tournament? So here we are. Now, I will say it will be easy. It's always easy if I want to talk about uh photos from Mackinac Island, and that is where this photo was taken. It is not taken during one of my stints working here, but it was taken outside of what is Dowd's Market on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021 at 7:39 a.m. in the morning. I could talk for hours about Mackinac Island, and in fact, I have on my Venture Cast podcast, which is on Spotify and iTunes, where I have lived and worked on this amazing tourist island the last 3 summers, and I talk about it on that podcast. But this picture image was taken before I worked there. In fact, for let me see, 3 years before I first, was it three? 2 years before I worked there. I apologize. And I went on I'd never been on the island on a winter trip, and I finally wanted to do it. So I went just after the new year on the Mackinac Island, and I got lucky that it did snow in the end. And so I went out on an early morning walk, and this is Dowd's Market, which is, if you're not familiar with Mackinac Island, Dowd's Market is the oldest running family owned grocery store in America. And let me just real quick before I get even more into the photo, I do like to do my screenshots. Now, it's funny, usually when I talk about these screenshots, I mention how, oh, if you see these little purple marks here, that shows you where I've taken a lot of photos. As you can see here, I don't think there's a spot. Well, actually, there is when you can zoom in a little bit. But if you look at Mackinac Island, these are all places I've taken photos. Between my 3 summers working there, I think I've taken over 4 to 5,000 photos on Mackinac Island. So I'm a little obsessed. And so as you can see, yeah, now there's still some spots here. If you look, this year when I get up there, I need to literally take this out here and just find these places and go take photos, because there are missing spots. But as you can also see, there's a ton of pictures taken. So when I do more, and later in this series, I will get into Mackinac Island photos eventually. So you'll see lots of these ones that I've got here that are marked. But here's Dowd's Market right out on Main Street on Fort Street, right next to Marquette Park. And that's where Dowd's Market is located if you've never been to Mackinac Island. And if you've never been, shame on you. You should go. It is incredible. And I will say that you'll see many, many photos as this series goes on, because I have 3 summers worth of taking photos on an island that I'm obsessed with. So this is really cool. On Mackinac Island in the wintertime, you can have snowmobiles, though. So there you go. You got a snowmobile here. You can see it in the photo. I'm not sure if you can see it on this YouTube version as good, or it's a light here, but if you look up towards the lamp, there is snow. This was a really nice morning. It was snowing, which was very picturesque. They still had the stuff up for Christmas. So you got the kind of the Christmas lights and decorations, and the lights and Dowds are open. They probably weren't even open yet. in the morning because 7:30 Dowd's Market in the winter hours is much shorter than the summer hours, so they probably were not even open yet. And if you look back here, that'd be Marquette Park. So I just remember at the time just thinking this was a super cool moment. Now the funny thing is as I said, I started working there, then you get a thousand moments. But this at the time was really new for me to go up to Mackinac Island in the winter time. And, yeah, so that is a cool photo from my winter experience on Mackinac Island. We've done a lot of fall photos, and I actually have a few more that I still wanna share, but I felt like, I've been doing a lot of fall photos, so I wanted to switch over to winter. And as I said, here is Dowd's Market on Mackinac Island, January 5th, 2021. And this was such a cool time to go in the island. People think that the island, some people think that Mackinac Island closes down in winter, and it does not ever officially close down. It's just less, there's just much, much less to do in the winter. Like there is no tourist things open in the winter. The visitor center isn't open. The public bathrooms aren't open. Most of the restaurants aren't open. Dow's is open, one, maybe two restaurants and a hotel. And the rest of it, now there are residents that live on Mackinac Island year round. So about 500 or so year round residents that are just there and that's where they live. It's such an incredible place. And I could talk about it for hours and hours, but I won't. I'll leave that here with you. These photos, as I said, all of these photos are always posted onto my Instagram at eVentureCast on Instagram. They're also available for purchase. I would love it if people watch the channel here on YouTube to comment, leave your own pictures that you think are cool. If they have to do with the subject, like if this one is Mackinac Island or ones I've taken about the fall, feel free to comment your own pictures. I also have a Patreon if you'd like to support a starving artist, eVentureCast on Patreon, and I have hundreds of video and audio clips of what it's like to live and work on Mackinac Island. I worked with some horses there on the island. And so I have a bunch of videos of me feeding horses and petting horses and working with horses. So that's on the eVentureCast Patreon page. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode here of eVenture Prince. And I hope to see you next episode or whenever you're watching these. These are every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. But again, this is 2026. You may be watching this 2 years later and you don't even, and you're not watching it on Tuesday or Thursday at 7 p.m. So there you go. All right, guys. Thank you so much as always. I will see you next episode on eVenture Prince.